Impactt is an ethical trading consultancy. We've been around for 17 years now, and there are many faces in the room, so it's nice to see some more friends. Working with all members of the supply chain. And it's really about trying to find innovative, practical ways to find solutions. We all know that there are problems out there, and we can probably predict most of them by looking at sites. And it's really about finding ways to put them right rather than going over the same ground. These are just some of our clients, so all sorts of consumer goods through to services and very familiar names in there on both sides of the water. We've got offices here in the UK, in London, China, India and Bangladesh, and then we work with a team of associates to cover the rest of the world. Worldwide domination is the plan. So, just a quick question. If you see this, do you think that's a good factory? And I use the word good in inverted commas. Is there such thing? It looks really shiny. Yeah, it's got all new mod cons, they've got all the nice equipment on. All we can't see at the back of it is that all the packets for the PPE have just been undone just for a visit. I'm kidding, but kind of. But yeah, there's obviously a lot of investment here. They've understood some basics here, guards are in place. You would feel more confident here that health and safety was at least well taken care of, and that housekeeping, they knew how to do it, and that they've made the effort because you're coming. Yeah? Assuming it's an announced visit. But we also have to remember, obviously, what's going on under the surface. When we talk to people about issues in the supply chain and trying to promote more creative ways of working in the supply chain, some people are in denial, and that's not a big religion. I've had no issues in my supply chain, walking around with glasses on and hands over their eyes. This is just how the industry is. It's always been that way. I've run my business like this for 20 years, I'm still here. What the hell do you know? Yeah? And that's not just in suppliers either, I have to say. The audit has no issues, so everything must be fine. Yeah? I've worked with these factories for years. The product is always good, so I don't need to worry about anything else. And obviously, depending on who you talk to in whichever business, you will get a variety of these comments back. And I am pleased to say that after working in the industry for 10 years, we have moved on. But I still get this today. And I'm sure I will get it for the next 10 years. But in a way, it means that we've got somewhere to start, and we can start the conversation and move things forward. But what lies beneath? We look at all the issues that we track the data that we from factories and work sites that we go to around the world, and we've been doing this since 2007. And this is just a guide. There are still issues out there. Okay, I would say there are issues out there. There are not that many bad people. Okay, just because there are issues, it's often through laziness, ignorance. There are very few genuinely evil people out there. The only people that I think really well I've actually met are human traffickers. Most people are trying to do the best that they can with what they know, with what they have, with the time that they have available. And I think that's one of the things that you do really need to remember working in this field, that just because there are non-compliances, you have a business with non-compliances, but surrounded by very good people trying to do a good thing. And if we can shift the conversation to that perspective, it enables a different kind of conversation to happen. So you can see that the issues are there. Things haven't really massively improved over the last few years. And if we start to look at this on a country basis, actually, it's getting worse in most countries, with the exception of China, interestingly, because they are able to keep up their wage levels much better than most of the other countries. So, look at the UK. Everything's fine, it's a developed country. I don't need to worry about the UK. But 74% of the sites that we go to have working hours over 60. 21 sites have double books, and those are the ones that we can find. I can tell you there are more than that, but those are the ones we can find. And 91% of sites have no or an ineffective union. And I don't mean that necessarily trade union, we use this bracket to cover effective communication. Yeah? So in these workplaces, there is no effective mechanism for worker communication, worker management communication, and most importantly for feedback. Yeah? Sometimes there are ways that, open door policy, they can come to me. Yeah? Which is great, and we don't want to stop that door being open. But how do we get effective feedback to workers and to managers so that they know that when they raise something, whether positive or negative, yeah, it's not always about issues, sometimes it's really good suggestions. How can we let those people know that they've been heard and listened to and that you've taken action? So as I said, these are the country indexes. This is our exploitation index. If you want more information, I do have one on the table I prepared earlier outside. But as you can see, that it's getting worse in most countries. China is getting slightly better. So kind of challenges a lot of current assumptions. So basically, don't sweep it under the carpet. There is no carpet big enough to hide this stuff. And if you know about these things, then you can start to do something about it. I tried to find this picture. I've got a lovely picture, but I couldn't find it anywhere, of 4 guys, paper bags over their head, hand up in the air, acknowledging that they've got a problem. It's a little bit like kind of Addicts Anonymous, or whichever one you want to claim to be addicted to. You know, the first step is, hello, my name's Dion, and I'm a... please don't complete that sentence. It was a rhetorical question. But the idea is, before you start to solve things, you've got to acknowledge that there's something there in the first place. Yeah? And problems aren't necessarily a bad thing. Even the best run businesses can be better. Yeah? We have a saying that the best can be better. You can always improve on what you have. It doesn't have to be from a position of you are bad. Yeah? It is that we want to be better. We need to be better to compete. The macro environment is changing. The micro environment is changing. If we are going to be here in 5 years, we've got to do things differently. We've got to do things better. And I don't just mean from an ethical trade perspective. As a business, you need to keep changing to keep up with things. And this is just part of that deal. I just want to kind of raise this thing about audits. There's been a lot of critique of audits, and I have my own opinion, but I'm not going to get onto that today. But audits are not a change tool. They are a measurement tool. Okay? They were never designed to change the world. Yeah? They were designed to measure compliance and performance against a certain standard. And you cannot make a pig fat by measuring it. Yeah? If anyone's trying to lose weight, just by measuring your waist is not going to make it smaller. Yes? You have to change your behaviour. You have to change how you think about things for them to change. Yeah? Simply measuring them will not deliver that result. And I think that this has been one of the biggest challenges with the audit approach. It's not that the audits themselves are bad things, but they are trying to be used and overstretching the brief of what they can do. And so it's no surprise that they don't change things and things aren't miraculously much better, because that's not what they're for. It's how they fit into a broader programme, and how do they fit in with capacity building and support, to listening to people, to building relationships. That is what makes the difference with the change management programme. They are not a change tool. And I think we've just got to get rid of that idea that audits on their own will do the job, because they won't do the job, they weren't designed for it. Okay? And it was the cutest picture of a pig I could find. So, as I said, it's got to be used in this bigger programme. It's got to be about gradual improvement. And we need to get beyond that and get to the root causes. So, I just want to share a quick piece of work that we've been doing, which is really about making businesses more competitive. And we don't talk about compliance. We don't talk about improving those things, although we do find that they actually perform better in those areas. But it's really about how can we make businesses more competitive and provide better quality jobs for workers in the process. So we call it the BBW, Benefits for Business and Workers. It was sponsored by DFID UK Aid under the RAGS banner, and with a number of brands supported the project as well. And it's really about change management. But rather than doing it on a factory by factory basis, which is great, bloody expensive. Yeah? How can you do this affordably at scale in local context? Yeah? So it's not about me flying over the world, although I would love to. It's about working with local people to provide local training. So we work with groups of factories, so they're in groups of 6, and they train together. So they come together for group training, and then they go back to the factory and have one-to-one support. And we felt, year one, we just did one-to-one because we had to try and figure out how to do this. And we thought, year two is going to be a disaster because we're going to get them all together and they're not going to like learning together. In fact, actually, year two results are better than year one because competition between your peers is very, very powerful for momentum. And we found that the results were actually quite promising. But it was really looking at investing in human resources, or human capital, as our friends like to call it. Also production, but sneakily hidden in there is also improving workplace communication, because without that, nothing really improves. And really shifting people's idea that workers were a liability to one that workers were an asset. If we look at balance sheets, all your assets depreciate except for people. And so trying to get people to see that workers were valued, but also the HR department was valuable. At the beginning, you'd ask people, what do you think the role of the HR team was? What do you think they said? Recruitment? Salaries, yeah. So, in essence, a glorified admin department, in many cases. They do the payroll, they make sure we get paid. Recruitment was a big one. Not one, and we worked with 73 factories. Not one said it was about retention. And that first question. Nothing was about investing in people. Yeah. So if you're not going to invest in them, how can you expect them to stay? Yeah. So it was really interesting to see how we got from that to actually an investment in people, investment in the business, and that people were important to making it work. It's no good anymore to say I've done X number of audits. Well, so what have you done that? What have you achieved? Yeah. Show me. And unfortunately it's not showing mine, it's showing yours kind of thing, so we're okay. No bike sheds here. So I don't think there's any surprises in any of this, but it's really, how can we pour our energy into the improvements rather than the measuring? How can we deliver value for money? Yeah. If we're going to, whoever is paying for this work, it's got to deliver value for them. And it was quite interesting, at the beginning people say, oh, it's expensive. But actually when you look at the cost savings, those kinds of things. I mean, people were having investments of 6 times, 20 times, 30 times of what they put in. And it becomes a no-brainer, really. And that's just the hardcore money. That's not all the soft advantages that you get from over the edge.